ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादां सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्तांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यः च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। गंगरति वाचालं बंगुं लंघयित्वं जत्कृपातमं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदिनतारिणे श्रीचैतन्येश्वरं परमानन्दमाधवम्। हरे कृष्णा। So welcome to the session 3 of this 18 days Srimad Bhagavad Gita course. So last time in last session we discussed about 4 lessons: Gita, Guru, identity, and 2 duties: material Swadharma and spiritual Dharma, and Atmaram. So Guru, we discussed how like we want to live forever, but we do not know the goal of life, what is our purpose of life. So for that, we, though we are very much learned, like Arjuna was very much learned, but for the practical application of the scriptures, so Guru is required in every person's life. Guru is required. Then we discussed about identity. Identity means, who am I? Am I just a bag of chemicals, or am I a spirit soul? So we discussed that we are spirit souls, and then we discussed about our material Swadharma and spiritual Swadharma. Then we discussed Atmaram, the characteristics of Atmaram, Sthita Prajna, the characteristics of Sthita Prajna, how he talks, how he walks, how he sits. So this we discussed. So today is the third chapter, that is Karma Yoga. So in the previous chapter, Krishna gave a prelude to the Bhagavad Gita. So second chapter was Gita summarized. So Krishna presents different topics such as Sankhya Yoga, Karma Kand, Buddhi Yoga, and Karma Yoga, and so on. But in the second chapter, these topics were unsystematic. So from this chapter, from the third chapter, Krishna gives a more organized outline of these parts. These parts. So this, so so in this chapter, Krishna gives Niskama Karma Yoga, or the great art of doing prescribed actions as an offering to the Supreme Lord Krishna, without personal desire, and thus avoiding the bondage in the work. Krishna also describes the discrimination necessary for a person desiring to conquer over lust, calm, that means material desire and anger. So the word karma could mean action or reaction. For an action, depending on the context, sometimes it could also mean a fruitive action which is intended to attain a specific result. So karma can be action and a reaction both. And in the last chapter, 49 verse, Krishna told Arjuna to keep all abominable action far away by Buddhi Yoga. He meant to establish the superiority of Niskam Karma Yoga over Karma Kand there. However, Arjuna thought that fighting is an abominable action. One time Krishna is saying that you should keep all abominable action far away. But Krishna is inspiring me to fight. And fighting is also an abominable action. And that intelligence or Buddhi Yoga means to renounce it. That means Buddhi Yoga means to renounce fighting, to renounce abominable action. But Krishna's urging him to fight seemed contradictory to Arjuna. So he asked Krishna about this. That one time you are telling me that I should keep all abominable action far away. And second time you are telling me to fight. And fight is not also an abominable action. So this is little contradictory. So for that, Arjuna is asking question. So in this chapter, we'll discuss about 4 lessons. T for Tyaga, renunciation or work, which is better. Then R, rungs on yoga ladder. That means from Karma Kand to Karma Yoga, then Karma Yoga to Gyan Yoga, and the Gyan Yoga to Bhakti Yoga. Then exemplary Karma Yogis. Who are the exemplary Karma Yogis? We'll discuss about them. And then the last one is enemy of the soul, which is lust. So four lessons we'll discuss in this chapter. So first is renunciation or work, which is better. So this is a summary of this chapter. First, 1 to 2, Arjuna's confusion, renunciation or action. Then 3 to 16, renunciation is difficult, so prescribed action with detachment is better for Arjuna. One should go from Karma Kand to Karma Yoga. Then 17 to 35, even if Arjuna is qualified for renunciation, he should still do the Niskam Karma Yoga to set the right example. Then 36 to 37, lust is formidable enemy on the path of yoga. So one should conquer lust by deliberate spiritual intelligence. So are you with me? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
You can write down in chat box. Hari bol. So we'll start from first verse. Let's chant together. Hmm. Uh, Unmute yourself and then chant with me after me. Arjuna Uvacha
Arjuna Uvacha
Yayasi Chet Karmanaste
Yasti Chitkarmanaste
Mata Buddhi Janardana
Mata Buddhi Janardana
Tat Kim Karmani Ghore
Tatkim Karmani Ghore
Mam Niyojayasi Keshava.
Mam Niyojasti Kesava.
Yes, Siddharth, you can read the translation.
Arjuna said, O Janardhan, O Keshav, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work?
Hmm. This translation also, my intelligence is.
My intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instruction. Therefore, please tell me decisively which will be most beneficial for me.
Hmm. So now Arjuna is confused. He wants a clarification. So here Arjuna is calling Krishna as Janardhan. So Janardhan means who is the object of entreaty for those desiring their ultimate benefit. So Keshava refers to the Supreme Lord Krishna, who is the source and controller of both Brahma, Shiva. Hmm? Ka means Brahma and Isha means Shiva. So Keshava means the source of Brahma and Shiva. So Keshava. So Arjuna requested Krishna, whose instructions cannot be transgressed by even by Brahma and Shiva, to clearly tell him what is most beneficial. So Arjuna is saying that your instruction is that cannot be transgressed by Brahma and Shiva. So please instruct me. So in response to Arjuna's question whether to work or renounce work, Krishna will now describe Niskama Karma Yoga, working with knowledge and detachment. Before that, he points out defects in Arjuna's desire to renounce his prescribed duty to fight. Somehow or other, Arjuna is thinking that renouncing a fight must be better. So now, Krishna, from third verse to ninth verse, Krishna will describe Niskam Karma Yoga, which is better for Arjuna than Jnana Yoga. So in this section, liberation or bondage is not determined by one's activities, but by one's consciousness in performing those activities. So again, I'm saying liberation or bondage is not determined by one's activities, but by the one's consciousness in performing those activities. So consciousness does matter. Thus, renunciation is not actually giving up action, but giving up attachment to the result of action. Renunciation is not renouncing the action, but giving up the result of that action, giving up the attachment to the results of that action. So, renunciation of activities without necessary knowledge and purification will lead to destruction on the path of spiritual advancement. Without necessary knowledge and without purification, so it will lead to destruction on the path of spiritual advancement. Just a second. So without prescribed duties, an unfulfilled desire for activity will lead the premature renunciate to sinful action. So in the third verse, Krishna is saying, there are two types of people, Jnana Yogi, who renounce the work, and Karma Yogis, who do the prescribed work. So, one with an impure heart should perform prescribed duties, prescribed activities for purification of the heart. This is explained in 13 verses, the next 13 verses. Like, this is what? Premature renunciation. Whatever you are saying, like this, there is a yogi, he's taking ganja, and here the yogis are they are playing football, because this is what? Premature renunciation. So premature renunciation is discouraged. If a person with impure heart renounces prescribed duties, taking to Vedic karma sannyas, he reverts to material action. For such a person cannot remain inactive. So, although Krishna has described people of two types of nishtha, the karma yogis who perform prescribed work, and jnana yogis who renounce the work, they are ultimately one in the sense that they aspire for same goal. Two rungs on the same ladder. This will be more clear in fifth chapter. Both these yogas are interdependent as philosophy and religion. Religion without philosophy is sentiment, and philosophy without religion is speculation. Prabhupada used to say this quotation: religion without philosophy is sentiment, which is, you can say, the maximum persons are ritualistic. They are not spiritual. And philosophy without religion is speculation. So actually, religion without philosophy, this happens in India, maximum. And philosophy without religion, this happens maximum in West. So one with an impure heart should perform prescribed duties for purification of the heart. This is explained in the next verse. So premature renunciation is discouraged. So purification, how? Purification comes to purify the hearts of materialistic people. The prescribed duties are laid down in the scriptures. One can accept a renounced sort of life after being purified by the discharge of such duties. So, by doing the prescribed duties, the heart will be purified. Then only you can take renunciation. So, if a person with impure heart renounces prescribed duty activities, taking to Vedic karma sannyas, he reverts to material action. For such a person cannot remain inactive. So, in fifth verse, Krishna is saying, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. Everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the material modes. But we sometimes see some sannyasis who doesn't engage any of their senses and sometimes even speak philosophy. What about them? If one can ask, yes, we know uh, some are not engaged in any of their senses, but sometimes even speak very philosophy. What about them? Krishna is saying he's a pretender, he's a mithyachar. A pretender restrains his senses from action, but dwells on the sense objects in his mind. He certainly deludes himself. So, in contrast to such a renunciant, a householder who performs scriptural actions without longing for results of one's actions is better. Like a sannyasi who is a pretender, better is a grihastha. Better is a grihastha who performs scriptural actions like karma yoga and without longing for results of one's actions. He's a better than the so-called renunciant. So in seventh verse, Krishna is saying, a sincere person, on the other hand, tries to control the active senses by mind and performs karma yoga with his senses without attachment. He is by far superior to a pretender who adopts so bottle spiritualism to cheat the innocent public. This is also called Phalgu Vairagya. You know, in Gaya, there is a river called as Phalgu. Phalgu, in previous days, in Phalgu, the upper side it is dry, but whenever you dig it, then you will find water. So, this is what like some renunciate. They are outwardly dressed as renunciate, but in inner heart they are longing for sense gratification. So these are called pretender or Phalgu Vairagi. You are with me? Yes or no?
Yes, Guruji.
Okay. So do your prescribed duty. Krishna is saying, Arjuna, do your prescribed duty, niyat karma, for it is better than a renunciation of action, karma sannyas. Niyat karma is better than karma sannyas. So, but by performing actions, one may become bound up by those activities. Arjuna may ask, you are saying me to perform actions, but by performing actions, I may be bound up by those activities. So how I can avoid the bondage? Then Krishna is saying this beautiful verse, Yagyarthat karmano nyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha. Without performing actions as a sacrifice for Vishnu, People are bound by their actions. If any work that is not performed for the pleasure of Vishnu, that work will bound you. Tadartham karma kaunteya. So do your prescribed duties for his satisfaction. Mukta sanga samacharaha. Thus you will always remain free from bondage. So here also, if Arjuna will fight, that is for also for the pleasure of Krishna, because Krishna wants him to fight. So if Arjuna will fight for the pleasure of Krishna, though this fighting seems to be very ghastly, seems to be very abominable, but still Arjuna will not be bound by these activities. Because why? Because this is performed for the pleasure of Krishna, for the pleasure of Vishnu. So Mukta Sangha in this verse could also mean being detached from the results of the action. So offering prescribed duties to the Lord Vishnu or Krishna without personal desire is called yajna or sacrifice. Else also Veda enjoin yajno vai Vishnu. The same purpose is served whether one performs prescribed yajnas or directly serves Vishnu or Krishna. So Krishna thus suggested that working for the Lord without desire for results, Karma Yoga, is better for Arjuna than premature renunciation of Jnana Yoga. Now Krishna tells Arjuna, but if you are not free from desire for the results of actions, then you should still perform actions with a desire. If you are not free from the desire for results of the action, then do it for the desire for the result of the action. That is called karma kanda. Karma yoga is no desire for the results of the action. Karma kanda is desire for the result of action. So rather than giving up actions completely, by satisfying one's desires in a religious way, those who are attached will be purified. Gradually, you will be purified. Gradually, by doing karma kanda, you will be purified and you will get strength to perform karma yoga. So from 10 to 16 is what? Karma kand to karma yoga. From 10 to 16. So what is the gist of this section? Lord Krishna has designed this material world to encourage yajna or sacrifice. He does this by making material advancement dependent on sacrifice. Material advancement is dependent on sacrifice. By worshipping the Lord for material well-being, one becomes purified. So in the 10th verse, Krishna is saying, happiness by yajna. Krishna is saying, see, long ago, Vishnu, the Lord of all creatures, Prajapati, he created population along with sacrifices, yajna, and said, may you get all desirable things by this yajna to live happily and achieve liberation. And how the cooperation between man and demigods. So demigods, being pleased by sacrifices, will supply all necessities to the human being. Thus, by cooperation between man and demigods, prosperity will reign for all. And whoever uh, enjoys without sacrifice, he is a thief. Krishna is saying, Stena evasa. Krishna is saying, but one who enjoys such gifts like food that comes through rain, etc., without offering them to the demigods in return, is certainly a thief. Hmm. So this is yoga ladder, animal life, then karm kand, then sakam karm yoga, fruits of work, fame and wealth, then niskam karm yoga, then jnana yoga, then ashtang yoga, then bhakti yoga, and then progressive ladder. Progressive ladder is animal life, karm kand, sakam karm yoga, niskam karm yoga, sadhana bhakti, then bhav bhakti and prem bhakti. And then express elevator, animal life, then surrender and association of pure devotees, and then sadhana bhakti, bhav bhakti and prem bhakti. Like if there is a, you have to go to the 25th floor of a building. It is intelligent to use the lift, and this using lift is bhakti yoga. Straight from a sinful life, one can practice bhakti yoga. So Krishna is suggesting that working for the Lord without desire of results is better than Arjuna, than premature renunciation of work. And this we have already discussed. Yeah, this is a circle. So Supreme Lord Akshara. So Lord gives knowledge through Vedas to Brahma, in which prescribed actions and karma is written, and that karma is a sacrifice, and by sacrifice there will be rain, and by rain there will be grains, and by taking grains there will be living entities, like by grains, by taking grains, the semen will be produced, and from semen living entities, and then living entities will worship the Supreme Lord. So this is the what? This is cycle of sacrifice. Sinful life, then the next one is sinful life without sacrifice. If one is not performing sacrifice, he'll lead to sinful life. Krishna is saying, my dear Arjuna, a human being who does not follow the cycle of sacrifice established by the Vedas, just 2-3 verses I have left. In the 13, Krishna is saying, eating food offered in sacrifice. Just a second. This is also important verse. Yeah. You can repeat after me. Yajñasishta sino santoho
यज्ञशिष्टाशिनः सन्तो
मुच्यन्ते सर्वकिल्बिषैः
मुच्यन्ते
मुच्यन्ते सर्वकिल्बिषैः
भुञ्जते त्वो अघं पापा
भुञ्जते ते त्वघं पापा
ये पचन्त्यात्मकारणात्
ये पचन्त्यात्मकारणात्।
रंजीत कुमार
Yes, Prabhuji. So the translation is like the devotees of Lords are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin.
yes, thank you. And in the next 14 15 verse we have already discussed the yagya cycle, cycle of sacrifice is mentioned. So the demigods like Indra, Varuna, Vayu are authorized administrators assisting the Supreme Lord Vishnu in various affairs of this world. They supply rain, water, air, and all other necessities to the people. They are like the limbs of Supreme Lord and are dependent on the performance of yajnas by the human beings. Some yajnas are meant to satisfy particular demigods, but Vishnu or Krishna is the chief beneficiary of all yajnas. That is mentioned in uh, chapter 5, verse number 29. Krishna is saying, Bhoktaram yajna tapasam sarvaloka maheswaram suhutam sarvabhutam nam gyatvam santi mrichati. Bhoktaram yajna tapasam. I am the supreme enjoyer of all the sacrifices. So now Krishna is saying, my dear Arjuna, a human being who doesn't follow the cycle of sacrifice established by the Vedas certainly leads to a futile life full of sin, mm, living only for the satisfaction of the senses. So Krishna explained so far that if one has desires, then he may work with a desire in a religious way. Now he'll explain that even if one has no desire, he should still work to set example for others. The previous section described Indriya Arama person, and the next section will describe Atma Ram or Atma Tripta person. Well, like Arjuna may ask, Krishna, you are saying, but I have no desire. So why should I fight? Why should I do my prescribed duties? So Krishna is saying, though you don't have desire, still you should do the prescribed duty as an example, to set an example for all the common people. So from 17 to 35, Krishna is saying, you perform Niskam Karma Yoga to set the right example. Like one who is in full knowledge doesn't have material desires or attachment. So he doesn't need to do prescribed duties for his purification. Still, he performs obligatory duties prescribed by the scriptures, setting the example for those who are less knowledgeable. Like you, Krishna is saying, you should do this work, though you don't have a desire, but you should do these activities, prescribed duties, to set an example for the less knowledgeable person. So that they will say, yes, Arjuna has done this, so we should also do this. So exemplary karma yogis. So a self-realized person has no duty for one who takes pleasure in self, Atmaratihi, who is satisfied in the self, Atmatriptaha, fully satiated in himself alone, Atmasantushta. There is no obligation to do any prescribed actions, no taste for material pleasures, no purpose or gain in performing such actions, no reason for not performing such work too, no need to depend on any other living being or demigods. So, one who has a spiritual intelligence doesn't perform prescribed actions with desires, but does them without attachment to the results to set the right examples for others. So, in 19th verse, Krishna is saying, obligatory work with detachment. Tasmat asakta satatam, therefore, without being attached to the fruits of the actions. Karyam karma samachara, one should act as a matter of duty. Asakto hi acharan karma, by working dutifully with detachment. Param apnoti purusaha, one can attain liberation or the Supreme Lord. So Arjuna wonders if there are any examples of persons who attained God consciousness by Karma Yoga. So maybe Arjuna had his in his mind that are there some examples of Karma Yogis? Thus Krishna in the next cites the examples of other warriors who attained success through action. So what are the example? Setting the right example of work. Who are they? Kings such as Janaka attained perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties, although they are self-realized and beyond doing any obligatory work. Therefore, just for the sake of teaching people in general, you should perform your work. King Janaka was a king, but he was also Rajarshi, Rajrishi. One time he was hearing Katha, and there was a fire. So he got the news, but still he was hearing the Katha. And other people, though he was the king and he had to take care of all the properties of other people, and he also delegated the work, but he used to sit there. But other people, they ran away to see if their properties are in safe or not. But still he was very cool minded, though he was a king, and there was fire. So for that, Krishna is saying Janaka, giving example of Janak. And then very important verse Krishna is saying, you can repeat after me. Yad yad acharati shreshtas tat tad eve taro janah
तत्तदेवेतरो जनः
sayat pramanam kurute
प्रमाणं कुन्ते
lokastada anuvartate.
लोकस्तदनुवर्तते
So yad yad acharati shreshtas tat tad eve taro janah. Whatever action a great man performs, common man follow. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, the whole world pursues. So a leader has to teach the public by his own practical behavior. A leader cannot teach people to stop smoking if he himself smokes. Hmm? And his teaching should be based on the scriptures. A leader who acts whimsically, deriding the scriptures, should be rejected. And Krishna is giving his example. He's saying, "Oh Partha, there is no work prescribed for me within all the three worlds. Not am I in want of anything or need to obtain anything, yet I am engaged in prescribed duties." Krishna is saying, I am also engaged in prescribed duties. Why? Because if I ever fail to engage carefully in the performing prescribed duties, all men would certainly follow my path. All these worlds would be put to ruination, and I would be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all living beings. So, lawmaker is beyond the law. Lawmaker is beyond the law. Though Lord Krishna teaches us by performing prescribed duties, we also see that he sometimes acts independent of the law to please his devotees. So, such actions, however, are not to be performed by those inferior to him. Like Krishna lifted Govardhan hill, and if we want to follow him or imitate him, we cannot. We can lift a large stone also. What to speak of a Govardhan hill? So there is following and there is imitating. So Lord Krishna lifted Govardhan hill. Lord Shiva drank poison. So great personalities are unaffected by their unconventional activities. But an ordinary human being cannot do such things. It is best, therefore, not to imitate the powerful, but simply follow their instructions. Because even Lord Krishna performs prescribed duties, a person who is established in knowledge also should work to set a right example. One can avoid sinful reactions in such a work by doing it with detachment. So now, 25 to 29, attached worker and a detached worker, Karmakandi and Karma Yoga. So in this subsection, 25, 27, 28 will describe the differences between an attached worker and a detached worker. So in 25, Krishna is saying, act without attachment to set an example. Like he's saying, as the ignorant people work with attachment to the results, the wise may similarly act but without attachment for the sake of the leading people on the right path. And in 26, 29, Krishna is saying, do not disturb the ignorant. Bewildered by the material modes, the ignorant perform material activities and become attached to their results. But the wise should not unsettle them. Rather, by personally working them with detachment, they should engage them in activity. This is very important. Like if they are engaged in such type of activities, you should not disturb them. Like you should not disturb them soon, but by inspiring them, by engaging them in good activities, positive activities, gradually they will be purified. inspiring even the ignorant. Ignorant people cannot appreciate the activities in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, Lord Krishna advises not to disturb them and simply waste valuable time. But the devotees understand the Lord's purpose and approach ignorant man to try to engage them in acts of Krishna consciousness which are most beneficial for all. So, supreme purity of bhakti. Gyan is dependent on purity of heart, and the purity of heart is dependent on action without desire. So, if it is possible to inspire people with faith in bhakti, then one can disturb the minds of those attached to action. Because those who have faith in bhakti have no obligation for performing karma. So, if both person in knowledge and ignorant person perform work in a similar way, so how to distinguish between them? Three planetary systems means the planetary system under the Bhulok and above the Bhulok. Patal, then Bhulok, and then Swarglok. So here question arises, if the person in a knowledge and ignorant person perform the work in a similar way, so how to distinguish between them, person in knowledge and person in ignorant? So Krishna is saying, ignorant person thinks himself the doer. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasaha ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. All the activities are actually carried out by the three modes of material nature, but the spirit soul bewildered by false ego thinks himself the doer of the activities. So, the free will and the responsibility of the jiva will never disappear. However, the jiva's doership is made possible by the body, senses, and life airs, and by the Paramatma, who is the activator of all things. The jiva, not only the factor, how the jiva can conquer over the influence of karma and subhav is discussed at the end of the chapter. So, in 28-29, Krishna is saying the person in knowledge of absolute truth, tattvavit. So, person in knowledge of the absolute truth understands that he is separate from the senses and the sense objects and does not engage in sense gratification. Knowing well the difference between work and devotion and work for the fruitive results, he never disturbs the ignorant. So, having described about Karma Yoga, Krishna will now mention that ultimately he is the object of it, and every activity needs to be done as an offering to him. Such Karma Yoga is actually a Bhakti Yoga. So 30-32, Krishna is saying, working for Krishna and following him. Do your duty depending on me. This is stage of Bhakti Yoga. Yeah, purpose of the Gita. So you can repeat after me. Mai sarvani karmani
मयि
सर्वाणि कर्माणि
सर्वाणि कर्माणि
sannyasya adhyatma chetasa
संन्यासः
nirashir nirmamo bhutva युद्धस्व विगत ज्वरः
रुद्धस्व विगतः ज्वरः
ज्वरा
So मयि सर्वाणि कर्माणि, offering all your activities onto me, sanyasya adhyatma chetasa, with full knowledge and dependent on me, nirasir, without any personal desires, nirmama bhutva, without a sense of proprietorship, yuddhasya vigata jvaraha, free from lethargy, fight, O Arjuna, fight. So this is working for the Lord. Like the cashier may count millions of dollars for his employer, but nothing belongs to him. That is nirmama. And thus he doesn't claim a cent for himself. That means nirasir. Similarly, one has to do his prescribed duty for the Lord without reluctance. That means vigata jaraha. Knowing that nothing in the world nothing in the world belongs to any individual person, but that everything belongs to Supreme Lord, means Mai. That will lead one to the path of liberation. Then 31, Krishna is saying, result of my following my teachings, what will happen if you follow my teachings? Those who execute their duties according to my injunctions faithfully, without envy, become free from the bondage of fruitive actions. Muchyante pi karma bhi. And if you do not follow me, what will happen? So what will result of disregarding my teachings? Out of envy, those who do not follow my teachings are devoid of all knowledge and discrimination and are befooled and ruined. So, will a person who is aware of punishments for the sinful actions be afraid of committing them? Not necessarily. Even such people are impelled to act sinfully due to strong past habits and impressions. What then to speak of one who is unaware of punishment? So now, Krishna is saying, working according to one's nature. So in 33, he's saying deep-rooted conditioned nature. Nigraha kim karishyati. Means, Krishna is saying, even a man knowledgeable of scriptures acts according to his own nature, acquired from the three modes. What are the three modes? What are the three modes?
Mode of goodness, passion, and
Goodness,
ignorance.
passion, ignorance.
Yes, thank you. So even a man knowledgeable of scriptures acts according to his own nature acquired by from the three modes. What can repression or punishment accomplish? Nigraha kim karishyati. So limitations of karma and jnana. The scriptural instructions of Niskama Karma Yoga can purify and enlighten the impure hearted. The scriptural instructions of Jnana Yoga can purify and enlighten the pure hearted. But neither can purify the extremely impure hearted people. But glory of bhakti, bhakti yoga arising from the causeless mercy of Lord Krishna and the association of his saintly devotees can deliver even such most sinful persons. Unless one is situated on the transcendental platform of Krishna consciousness, he cannot get free from influence of the modes of material nature. The yoga can purify most sinful persons. Like there are so many examples like Mrigari. There was Dashuratnakar. So many persons, sinful persons, they got elevated. So in 34, Krishna is saying gradual purification. So there are principles to regulate attachment, raga, and aversion, dvesa, pertaining to the senses and sense objects. One should not come under control of these two obstacles on path of self-realization, raga and dves. Attachment means bringing one's senses in contact with their objects. Aversion means hatred for those that obstruct one's sense enjoyment. One should not fall under the control of such attachment and aversion. So here Arjuna may ask, what if one adopts to others' duties such as non-violence rather than doing one's own duty of fighting the battle due to attachment and repulsion? So Krishna is saying, do your duty, don't imitate others. Shreyan swadharma viguna paradharma sonusthita swadharme nidhanam shreyaha paradharmo bhayavaham. It is far better to perform one's own duties, even in a faulty way, than doing another's duties perfectly. Even death is in the course of doing, even death in the course of doing one's duty is beneficial, but to follow another's path is very, very dangerous. So here there is obligation. Material duties are as per one's psychological condition. Under the modes, spiritual duties are as ordered by Guru for the Lord's service. So they may be different, like material duties and spiritual duties may be different. But the authorized direction is always good for the performer, rather than whimsically adopting to others' duties. Everyone has to cleanse his heart by a gradual process, not abruptly. Beyond the sanction of the Vedas, it causes misfortune. And transcending, however, when one transcends the modes and is fully situated in Krishna consciousness, he can perform anything and everything under the direction of bona fide Guru. If he transcends the modes and fully situated in Krishna consciousness, then he can perform anything. He can perform like Brahmana karma, he can perform Kshatriya karma, he can perform Vaishya karma, and he can perform Shudra karma. Because now he becomes above the three modes of nature. So last section is enemy of the soul. What is enemy of the soul? Can anyone guess?
Lust, anger, greed.
Lust. Actually, lust. Krishna is saying about lust. So conquering the ultimate enemy, that is lust. So 36 to 37, just 7 verses remaining. The arch enemy of spiritual advancement is lust. One can curb the lust by following regulations and religious life, and by cultivating knowledge of the soul's real nature. So, referring to the previous verse 34, Rag and Dvesa, Arjuna now asks about the jiva's attachment to sense objects, even though it is forbidden uh, by the scripture. So, Arjuna's question, Arjunovacha atha kena prayuktoyam papam charati purusaha anicham apni vasneya baladiva niyojitaha. Very important question Arjuna is asking. Arjuna is asking, O descendant of Prishni, by what is one impelled to do sinful acts, even unwillingly, anichan, as if by force, baladiva? That means one is not willing to do any sinful acts, but still he is impelled to do so. So, what is that impelled one to do the sinful acts? So, a living entity as part and parcel of the Supreme is originally spiritual, pure, free from all material contamination. Therefore, by nature, he is not subject to sins of the material world. So, Arjuna asked Krishna about the perverted nature of the living entities who acts in sin, as if instigated by someone. Now, Krishna explains who is instigator behind the jiva's sinful action. I think in the last session, Om Prabhu had a similar question. Am I right, Om Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah. Now Krishna will answer you. Answer your question. So Krishna is saying, lust leads to degradation. Lust causes material entanglement. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Kamo esa krodha esa rajoguna samudbhavaha. Lust, which is born of the mode of passion, when unsatisfied, turned into anger. Mahasano mahapapma vidhyenam mihavairinam. So this lust is all devouring sinful enemy of this world that instigate one to commit sin. Please know that. So here, misuse of minute independence. The Supreme Lord expanded himself into many for his ever-increasing spiritual bliss. And the living entities are his parts and parcels. They also have little independence, but by misusing it, their service attitude is transformed into the propensity of sense enjoyment. And they come under the sway of lust. They love Krishna eternally, but that love is transformed to lust. Love to lust, which when unsatisfied turns into anger and then illusion and so on. So, how can we spiritualizing the lust and anger? Lust can be transformed with love for the Lord by desiring everything for Krishna. Anger can be employed in the service of the Lord by fighting against the miscreants. Therefore, the lust and anger, when employed in Krishna consciousness, become our friends instead of our enemies. So this lust and love can be also transformed and can be also engaged in Krishna's service. So now Krishna is saying 3 degrees of covering of lust. So three example he's giving. What are they? Dhumena briyate banhir. A fire is covered by smoke. That means if fire is covered by smoke means anytime the fire can there can be fire. Now it is smoke, but anytime the fire can come. Yatha darsho malena cha. As a mirror is covered by by dust. That is this is medium. Yatholo bena brito garbhas. As the embryo is covered by womb, that is intense. Tatha tenedam abritam. The conditioned jiva in this world are covered by lust. So 3 degrees. First was fire covered by smoke. This is just slight covering. This is in case of human being. And a mirror covered by dust, it is medium. This happens in case of animals. And embryo is covered by womb. This is very intense. This is found in trees. So, these are the 3 degrees of lust Krishna is saying. Then this lust is never satiated. This lust is never satisfied. Thus, the wise person's pure consciousness is covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied by any amount of sense enjoyment. Just as fire is never extinguished by constant supply of fuel. If you are pouring ghee on fire, there will be no time when fire will speak you, oh, enough, please stop it, please stop pouring ghee on me. It will never happen. So likewise, this lust will be never satisfied by any amount of sense enjoyment. So where lust is located? Krishna is saying 3 locations of lust. Where? Senses, mind, and intelligence. These are the 3 locations. So the animal lust has captured strategic positions in the body. Lusty intelligence influences the soul to acquire the false ego and identify itself with matter and thus with the material mind and senses. So, how can we control lust? So, first, Krishna is saying, by first regulating the sense. One should not try to conquer over the mind and intelligence first because they are more powerful than the senses. So, first, you have to work on the senses, then mind, and then intelligence. So first, one should curb this great symbol of sin, lust, in the very beginning and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. So enemy lust can be conquered by conquering its shelters, the senses, mind, and intelligence, which are respectively increasing difficult to conquer. The senses may be difficult to control, but they are easier to conquer than the other items. Therefore, first the senses should be conquered by the regulation, and by restricting the senses, after some time the mind will become freed of lust. So one should not try to conquer over the mind and intelligence first because they are more powerful than the senses. And then 42, Krishna is saying, इंद्रियाणि पराण्याहुर इंद्रियभ्य परम मनः मनसस्तु परा बुद्धि य बुद्धे परतस्तु सः. So indriyani paranyahur, senses are superior to dull matter. Indriyabhya param manah, mind is higher than the senses. And manasastu para buddhir, intelligence is higher than mind. Yo buddhe paratastu saha, soul is higher than intelligence. So first senses, then mind, then intelligence, and above intelligence is soul. So 43, last verse, Krishna is saying, एवं बुद्धे परम बुद्ध्वा संस्थाभ्यात्मानम् आत्मनाम् जहि शत्रु महाबाहु काम रूपम दुरासदम्. Steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, knowing oneself to be the transcendental to the material senses, mind and intelligence, thus by spiritual strength conquer this formidable enemy known as lust. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, tomorrow we'll discuss about transcendental knowledge.